Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We will soon start the discussion. We just want to take this time to say thank you so much for your time and waiting. We're just going to pause for another 2 more minutes, please. Thank you. Good. Okay, little kid.
Yeah.
Um, Look, I see you. Look at the bottom here. You're going to see setting. Did you see it?
Setting where?
Just little after mute, you got stop camera, and then you have setting.
Um,
Okay, click on the
no,
setting.
I have mute, camera, chat, and then more. Let me click on more and see settings. Yes, my
Mm-hmm.
settings just gives me the camera and audio.
No, because if you so when you click on setting, you don't see the background.
No.
Okay, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're just gonna take this time to start, and okay. So I'm gonna take this time to say good evening to all. We are so excited to be here this evening, but uh, when an incident happened, and all of you, I just want to say thank you to our viewers. Thank you for your patience. Again, this is this 22nd episode of the Liberian View, and today our topic is how to become empowered as a woman. Last month, we talked about the role and impact of an empowered woman. And then someone was saying, but then how would I know whether I'm empowered or not? So today we have a new member of our team, Miss Dorina White. We're going to introduce ourselves again, and you all know the topic. We send it to you all. Just go to www.facebook.com/ the Liberian View, or www.youtube.com/ art the Liberian View, and then you'll be able to watch us. We're really waiting for you. We're impatient. It has to do about women. We know that we need to help one another. We need to empower one another. So for today, we know that a lot of things been going on all over the world when it comes to the abuse of women, the neglect of women, and a lot of things been going on. So today we're going to just pause a little bit, not only just because of what happened in Liberia, but some of the things are happening in the world, in other African countries, European countries, all over the world to women. But social media is not there, or things are not happening for us to know what is going on. But on the 22nd of February this year, one of, as far as we're concerned, an empowered woman, she served she served Liberia as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court from 1997 to 2003. On the 22nd of February in Liberia, her home was invaded by unidentified men. And an attempt to harm her, they stabbed her young adult daughter, college student, to death. We know a lot of things have been going on, but that young girl had a future. She had a dream. She had a wish to get married. She had lots of untold potentials. But her life was just ticking. So on behalf of the Liberian View, our panelists, our viewers, and women all over the world, we just want to pause for a second. For all young ladies and women, parents that have been killed in such a manner, let us pause. Okay. Thank you so, so, so much. We want to extend our deepest sympathy to Councillor Councillor Gloria Mususcat, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Liberia. She's a politician, and as far as we're concerned on this platform, she's an empowered woman. This shouldn't be her pay for serving her country, that her daughter's life was taken just like that. We pray and hope, and we're going to continue talking about it till we can find justice. So these type of killings, these type of fear to come to your country, to serve your country, and at the end of the day, you just, I mean, something just happened to you. You don't even know what it is. But one night, people just visit you and take away your daughter's life. We say, please have our deepest sympathy. May God continue to strengthen you. And we are asking the international community to really make sure that these kind of behavior, taking the lives of young women, not only women, just anybody, it's not a right thing. And we're urging the government of Liberia to really investigate this case, because that's what happened to Precious. The investigation still goes on, but we're hoping that this will end such a behavior. And we know that Liberia will do the right thing because we keep on talking about it. And so we're going to go on our topic. Thank you so much. But before we do that, we know Lady Kate. So we're going to take the time to ask our Dorina White to just briefly tell us who she is, and then we'll start the discussion. Dorina, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Lucy and Lady Kate. Thank you for having me as a guest today. I'm very excited to be here. Again, Lucy said, my name is Dorinda White. I am the executive board, one of the executive board members and a treasurer of the National Federation of Democratic Women, which is an organization that was founded back in the 70s to represent Democratic women across the United States. I'm a resident of Washington, D.C. After being an expatriate in Italy for about 10 years. I'm a strong believer in the fact that all politics are local, so I will be speaking about empowered women and the importance of being involved from the political standpoint. And in fact, while residing in Italy, I was invited to speak in front of the Italian Parliament about issues affecting the immigrant community. This was as a result of my efforts in the community in Rome and Perugia to assist African immigrants who had come to Italy to study and to live, because for many of them, I realized that Italy was going to be their America. And I helped many from Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Congo, Gabon, and other countries to get decent housing, open bank accounts, and get access to services for immigrants that oftentimes Italians were delinquent in sharing information to them. So as a Black American woman living and working in Italy, many doors were open to me that Italians closed to many of the African immigrants. So I knocked on those doors to open up opportunities where and when I could do so. And I declined an offer to speak on behalf of the African immigrant community, not because I wanted to deny my African heritage. I did it because I knew that I could always return to America and begin my life there very easily. I declined the offer by telling them that I felt that a true African immigrant should be the spokesperson for all African immigrants in front of the Italian Parliament. And as I said before, I knew that for many of them, mostly students, this was going to be as close to America as they could be by living in Italy. And I knew I could always go home. So even then, I knew that all politics is local, because despite the wonderful opportunity, I knew that it was of utmost importance that a true representative of what life was like in Italy for immigrants could tell the real story and influence political decision makers who could make a difference. So when I returned to the US, I became the manager of administration and editor of Africa Communications magazine, which was a French and English publication. And our focus was to share information on the emergence of international telecoms and how it was going to become the norm on the African continent. So I worked with RASCOM, ITU, the US Trade and Development Agency, USAID, and others to invite the ministers of post and telecommunications to the US once a year to discuss the intersection of technology between the African telecoms leaders and their counterparts, US counterparts. We did this under the umbrella of an annual conference called AFCOM. So we were successful in creating the groundwork for the telecommunications system that is now used all across the continent. Um, then I went on to cut my teeth in the political arena when I served as a director of membership and chapter development under my mentor and friend, the late C. Dolores Tucker, who was one of the founders of the National Federation of Democratic Women. I also served as a national board member of that organization, and I accompanied her on her many initiatives to reduce the use of gangster rap and misogynist lyrics that we all hear today in the music that the young people listen to. But we were at the front lines protesting and putting up a fight against the insertion of those negative kind of renditions of women, Black women, in the music that was being put out there. So later on, I served as the president of the DC Federation of Democratic Women, and I'm currently a public servant in the government of the District of Columbia, serving the Medicaid community, which many of you know is a fail-safe mechanism for many who first come to the country to at least have healthcare coverage once they land by air or by sea or whatever, so that they have healthcare. And I am part of that process. I'm the public affairs officer. So I don't want to go on about the DC the Federation of Democratic Women, because it is a national organization. And I also served as the president of the organization from 2019 to 2021 as the president of the local DC Federation of Democratic Women. And I was able to, on behalf of women during COVID, host virtual events on Get Out the Vote, voter suppression, what's on the DC ballot, National and International Women's Day. And we put together a 411 on the Plum Book on how to get presidential appointments when the new administration came in. And I spearheaded, wow, I forgot I did all this, but I recreated C. Dolores Tucker's Commission on Presidential Appointments, which was to streamline and create a pipeline for Democratic women to get politically appointed in the Biden-Harris administration. I then went on to become the communications director to Congresswoman Diane Watson, who in her role on the Foreign Affairs Committee gave me the role of staffer to coordinate her portfolio in Africa. As a result, I worked with her on issues affecting various African countries. And she was very instrumental, actually, introducing your past president, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, to members of Congress before she ran for election in Liberia. I traveled with her to South Africa and a few other African countries. And here in DC, I was directly involved in the outreach for the Quora Awards held at the Arena Stage and the first Believe in Africa gala that we organized and hosted at the museum. So it has always been my pleasure to work with African women on issues and initiatives that they created and wanted to share with their community and other communities. In fact, my family has a very close connection in Liberia with the Amici family in Monrovia, Dr. Amici, where one of his daughters, Geneva, is the owner of the Bomi Bar in Monrovia. So she is she is family to us, and we were heavily involved in raising her two daughters, when one born here in the States and one born in Liberia. So that is the synopsis, I guess. And locally here, I'm the first vice president of the Ward 6 Democrats in Washington, D.C., and I am a elected party official for the D.C. Democratic State Party. So I've been on the Rules Committee on the DNC. I've been a communications director for the state party, and I'm very happy to be here today. I think I've said too much, but thank you for having me as a guest.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, when we talk about empowered women, today's topic, how to become an empowered woman. Because last month, we spoke about the role and impact. And someone said, am I empowered? How will I know that I'm empowered? So we're going to start the discussion, So how did I, Lucy Wilson Keir, become empowered? By knowing who I am, my name, my worth. And what I did also, I surrounded myself with women such as Dorinda, such as Lady Kate, strong, powerful. I mean, there's a whole list of women such as my mother, who gave birth to me, because she was empowered to make her, to give her that position, made her someone that gave birth to such a person as Lucy. So I know myself. And I have my contact of empowered women. And every time you see on this particular platform, all you're going to have are people who are empowered. And they're aware, they know themselves. And they know who they are. So today I'm going to start the discussion, the ball rolling. I think we'll just start with first. We start with Lady Kate. From her perspective, how can I, as a person, an individual, a woman, been to school, have a job, have my home, but am I empowered? Should I be told that I'm empowered? How do I feel? Is this something that I can feel or touch? How does it happen? How can I know, or how can I become empowered? So we'll give the flow, the platform, to our own Lady Kate to start the conversation. Lady Kate, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dorina. It's a pleasure to meet you and an honor to be on this panel with you. Yes, following up from our discussion the last time where we talked about, what it means to be empowered and moving on to how you actually become empowered. We all know that having an education it doesn't mean that you're empowered, right? So for women to be empowered is having that ability to be able to achieve your full potential and also what you want for yourself and your community and the world around you. So for me, yes, I'm educated. I'm kind of at the peak of my career and going higher and higher. But being empowered for me has been getting on a journey to understand myself, first of all, what I really want as a woman, and how I want to impact the world around me. So for me, that has been, surrounding myself with other women that are powerful, inspiring, phenomenal, and very dynamic, women that I can learn from and grow and develop myself. And just like the women that are on the panel today, Doreen, Miss Lucy. So that's a first step, right? Surround yourself with women that can inspire you, and that you can team up with
Mhm.
and also inspire others. You can team up with and grow. Other ways include, injecting yourself into women's associations, women's groups that are all about empowering other women. Because you could be in a group that, the mission is really not that. They could have, it could be just culture, it could be something else, but groups that actually build women up and give them the tools to develop themselves and and grow. So those are two ways that women can achieve empowerment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you rightly said it. You have to build like your own network.
Hmm.
Sometimes you work 15, 20 years, you have no one you can really call or depend on or talk to. So it's important that as you map yourself in the international world or wherever you are, that you build your own network. And then sometimes, I look at myself sometimes. I used to have some fears, like if I'm supposed to be presenting at my job, I used to have some fears. Why? I don't know. These are jobs that you've done, but you still have those kind of fears. So I work on my own fear. Because sometimes you have to tell yourself, this is what I do. I only need to talk about it. And then when you do it right, you feel empowered. And sometimes someone will ask you, hey, you really are a very confident and strong woman. It's not that you're strong. Um, my daughter was supposed to, sorry, Lindsay, I gotta use you, supposed to be giving a presentation. And sometimes you have to prepare yourself. And you have some young adult who really they're perfectionists. Everything have to be straight. You come and tell me, mommy, I did it, but I really don't feel I did it. But then when you look at it, you have 97. But you did it. Work on the three. Where did it lock from 97 to 100? Those are 3 points. What you didn't do good, read, study, research, prepare yourself, and get back. So, in that aspect, you empower yourself. So, right now, we're going to look at it as our sister rightly said, you got to know yourself. You got to surround yourself with the right people. People that will be smiling when you enter a room. You know, a lot of time we try to enter rooms of people that will frown, but we still go there. Yes, you go there, but sometimes it makes you to feel less. But I can tell you, those who will frown when you enter because they have some shortfalls, they have some weakness, and they see you as an empowered woman. So you have to look at yourself. Who am I? Am I a leader? Define yourself. Or if you define yourself, redefine yourself. Learn something new every possible day as you live on earth. So, having said that and having heard from our own Lady Kate, we know we're going to come back when we get some questions. But I'm going to turn it over to Dorinda, who will also tell us and tell our viewers, our supporters, our listeners how to become an empowered person, regardless of a woman, how to become an empowered person from her perspective. Dorina, the floor is yours.
Okay, Lucy, please bear with me first because I'm a former congressional speechwriter, so I
It's
used
good.
to write speeches all the time. So I prepared some specific remarks that I'm going to read because I didn't want to leave anything out. So with that
Excellent.
said, if you see me looking up a little bit on my larger screen, it's because I'm actually looking at as my talking points here. Okay,
That's
so
good.
before I share my thoughts on how to become an empowered woman, we all agree that as women, we are on the clock 24/7, making a
Mhm.
difference in our families and our communities. There's no way to get around it. It's just part of who we are as women. And there's no way that we can backtrack and not be there when we're needed or called upon. So women inspire other women. So with that, and it being Sunday, we all gone to church this morning, hopefully, let me touch upon the inspirational women of the Bible first before we, because we all know that as women, we must first put our faith and trust in God and then into ourselves. So I want to highlight the qualities of inspiration of these women, of women who lead and inspire others to lead, because no matter the age, background, or understanding of life and its twists and turns, it has always been women helping other women to achieve by inspiring through mentorship and gentle guidance on how to move forward and make a difference. So we see that now in the person of our current vice president, who is a woman and a woman of color. Through her shining light, Vice President Kamala Harris is an inspiration for all women and girls to achieve such greatness. So I'm also a member of the Order of the Eastern Star, which is affiliated with the Prince Hall Masons. And one of the things that we focus on predominantly in what we do, the work that we do, is we focus on the sheroes of the Bible. And we take comfort in knowing that women such as Ada, the daughter from the book of Judges, Ruth, the widow from the book of Ruth, Esther, the wife from the book of Esther, Martha, the sister of Mary and Lazarus from the Gospel of Luke and Gospel of John, and Electa, the mother, the elect lady from 2nd John. Each of these sheroes were inspirational women in the Bible because at certain phases in their lives, each of their lives paralleled a certain phase in the life of Christ. So I'm overjoyed to speak to you today, as I too hope to inspire aspiring women leaders from all walks of life. Okay, and men too. You said in general, don't just say women, of life and disciplines who have skills and faith to contribute to a vision for our collective future. It is through inspiration, by nurturing, mentoring, and guiding other women along the pathway of life that we create a pipeline of future women leaders. So, with that being said, I'm going to speak about how to become an empowered woman. That was the
Mhm.
introduction.
Yeah.
So, um, Lucy asked me to talk about becoming an empowered woman from an historical, cultural, economic, educational, and developmental perspective. Empowerment means having the ability to make your own choices, pursue
Mhm.
your goals, and contribute to society in meaningful ways. It's essential for all of us to feel empowered because it allows us to live our lives to the fullest and make a positive impact on the world. So, some steps to becoming an empowered woman. From an historical perspective, the first step is to understand the historical context of women's rights. Women have been fighting for equal rights for centuries, and it's important to acknowledge the progress that has been made. Recognize the contribution of female leaders who have paved the way for women's rights and use their examples as inspirations. For example, Shirley Chisholm, who's the first Black woman to run for president of the United States. Cultural perspective. Cultural diversity is an essential component of becoming an empowered woman. Embrace your cultural identity and celebrate your unique experiences and perspectives. By valuing diversity, we can create a more inclusive and equitable society. And that's who we are as women. We are basically inclusive, and we want equity for our family, our friends, and our communities. It's innate in our nature. From an economic perspective, economic empowerment is critical for women's independence and success. So seek out opportunities to develop your skills and pursue career advancement. Advocate for equal pay and opportunities for women in leadership positions. So if you see an opportunity where you work, put the name of someone that you know who has the skill sets in the mix so that they can be considered for a leadership position, because as she enters that door, others can enter that door too. Yeah. Educational. So from an educational perspective, it's key to becoming an empowered woman. You seek out opportunities to expand your knowledge and skills. Access to education is a basic human right, and it's essential to advocate for equal access to education for all women. From a developmental perspective, personal development is a crucial component of becoming an empowered woman. Focus on building your self-confidence, self-esteem, and resilience. By developing those skills, you can overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. So, the importance of women leaders cannot be overstated. Women leaders serve as role models and advocates for women's rights. They bring a unique perspective to decision-making and contribute to creating more inclusive and equitable societies. So what are some resources to support women? Seek out mentorship opportunities, because when you mentor, you learn. And women who mentor you, they grow and they can expand their pipeline of people that they've mentored. So become a mentee, but become a mentor too. Attend networking events. There are events going on in communities all the time. And whether you're the only woman in the room, it doesn't matter. Your voice counts, and the fact that you're there, your presence counts. Access online resources. If you have a computer, you have a smartphone, go online and find out what's going on in your community and go and be a part of that conversation. These resources can provide valuable advice, support, and guidance as you determine what you want to get involved in, because don't let others determine it for you. You decide where you want to use and place your skill sets and what you feel will empower you in that environment and how you can empower others. So in conclusion, becoming an empowered woman requires both an historical, cultural, economic, educational, and developmental perspective. But women who want to lead or who want to be empowered play a crucial role in advocating for women's rights at home, in your community, in your family, even when you're dealing with your own daughters. If your daughter comes to you and says, "Hey, Mom, I'm thinking about running for," it happened to me. You're running for senior vice president, vice president or president of the senior class. Don't tell them, "Don't you have better things to do with your time?" Find a way to support them and push them forward and say, "Don't come to me saying you are afraid or you don't feel that it's right or you're the only Black woman running for that position." Go for it. Whether you win or you lose, you will still have thrown your hat in the ring. And oftentimes we as Black women feel like we are imposters, that we don't belong where we are because we feel like we are inadequate, because we don't have the skill sets or the background of someone else. No, when your face is in the place, you can make a difference. So I also did a little bit of more of a synopsis from my perspective as a woman having lived abroad in another country and having experienced from an outside looking in what was going on for immigrants in another country. So I actually put together some notes on how can African women contribute to women's issues in the United States. Now, this is just my perspective. I'm not telling you what to do or how to do it, but I did a little bit of research. And so here are some ways. Number one, share your unique perspectives and experiences. African women have their own distinct experiences and perspectives. Sharing these can contribute to a more diverse and inclusive conversation around women's issues. By sharing your stories, African women can help to broaden the understanding of what it means to be a woman in the United States. So I think it's important to open up a dialogue, for example, and I've pushed this quite a few times. We need to have a dialogue between Black American women and women who are of African origin who are here in the United States, because we're all facing the same challenges. But there's obstacles between us because of cultural issues, how you experienced life in the United States when you first came here, when you went to high school, different things that were forced upon you that you said, okay, I'm going to stay in my culture, let them stay in theirs. But we're all experiencing the same thing. When we send our sons out there to walk the streets, America sees a Black son. They see a Black boy walking the streets. They don't care where they come from. And we know what's happening to our Black men in America when they're going out there facing the world. So going on to something else, advocate for policies that benefit all women. African women can use their voices and platforms to advocate for policies that benefit all women, such as paid family leave, affordable health care, and equal pay. By speaking up on these issues, you can help to ensure that the needs and concerns of all women are taken into account. Build bridges between different communities, which I mentioned before. African women can help to build bridges between different communities and promote understanding across cultural and ethnic lines. By fostering dialogue, as I mentioned earlier, and cooperation, they can contribute to a more united and supportive community of women, because we all help each other in some way or another as women amongst women. So support organizations and initiatives focused on women's issues. African women can support organizations and initiatives such as the National Organization for Women, Planned Parenthood, the Women's March, or get involved in political organizations in your area by volunteering on campaigns, attending community meetings, going online to find out what is happening in your community, and creating a pipeline of conversation with other women so that you can develop a political awareness. For example, I think in Prince George's County nearby, there are about 12 candidates who won who were first generation children of African immigrants, and they all won seats in various capacities in Southern Maryland. That's fantastic, because that means they can advocate for all of us, but they can also make certain they take care of the people and of their own people and the issues that are affecting their own people that many of us may not know, not because we don't want to know, because we haven't been exposed to it. So remember, all politics is local, and I'm speaking of this from a political standpoint, and the vast majority of the population on this earth are divided into three groups. There are a few who make things happen, many more who watch things happen, and the overwhelming majority have no idea about what has happened. They're like, oh, what happened? When did it happen? How did it happen? So many women, due to obligations of home and family, fall into that category, but not by choice. It's up to the woman herself, her environment and education to determine whether she will rise to the second group or even to the first. My advice, don't be in that third group. Mentoring is important, as I mentioned earlier. And I think that overall, I think I've covered too much here, so I'm going to stop.
We'll get back to that. Okay, we're gonna get back to that. But I just wanted to. I know that. Some of us came here and went to school, did masters, and we know stuff here. But for instance, if I'm talking about African countries, I know in America you have all these organizations. We have our challenges, but they are unique in their own setting. Okay, and things are more one way or the other. I know there are a lot of challenges in the past, 50 years ago, maybe 75 years ago. There things were worse than now in the United States. But how, when I listened to one of the presidential candidates during the Nigerian campaign, Peter Obi, I think he from the Anambra state, he stated, and I followed because I was just in love with his character. His in the first place, in his office, in his state, I think if I'm not mistaken, he listed almost most of the major positions in the Anambra state during his term of governorship were all women. And so this guy was so successful. And so I was saying, maybe in Africa, they don't really give the opportunity to women. But when he stated that, I had a different thought. I'm like, wow, because they have some men that don't care whether this woman is aggressive, as people will call you, because you stand out, you speak out, you say what you want to say, and then you become aggressive. But here's a guy a presidential candidate in a country of 2.30 million people in his state majority position, very important positions, were held by women. And he left with his state coffers, monies to be used after he left. So when I look at that, I said to myself, well, we cannot just always be thinking, maybe in Africa, the men are not giving us the opportunity to do that. But from your perspective, you've been to Italy, I mean, when you list all what you've done, organization, the National Federation of Democratic Women, you've worked with other organizations, and I work with you, Dorina. What do you think? Is that because women, is there a fear in us that we don't know whether we are empowered? Or from your perspective, what how will we know that we are empowered? Someone was asking me the last time you guys talked about the role and impact of empowered women. That means you all have already defined, set aside a particular woman and say, hey, empowered. And I told her that's not what we did. It's something that you have to learn, you have to identify, you have to know yourself. But what do you think from your perspective? If someone is watching here today, you listed very beautiful historically, a developmental aspect, perspective, and everything you've spoken. How will I feel? Is it empowerment? Is it something I feel or something to do? Or something that I learn, something I earn, or is it physical?
Um, I would say that as a woman, especially a woman who has a family and who might be married or has a partner and has children, has raised children, many times women, because they're in that family environment, they don't realize how much they are empowered and how it's their role to empower their children, be they male or female. And I think that the vast majority of the times we underestimate ourselves. But the bottom line is, if you look at the average family or the average nuclear family, or even the average, clan or whatever you want to call it, women are really running the show, and they have been empowered, but no one wants to acknowledge it. We we Others may see that we're running the show, that we're juggling this and doing that, raising children, keeping the budget, driving, doing this, making certain that our kids are educated, making certain they have exposure, making we are the builders of the community. Not to say that men aren't, but historically women have been in that role. And I think oftentimes no one we don't get the acknowledgement externally until we branch out and go out into the world and start getting involved and using those same skill sets to organize, to influence, to guide, to mentor, to grow, and to nurture. It's only when we're out in these other organizations with other women that we can feel, I think, in our own network that, oh, I may not be getting awards, I may not be getting whatever, but I'm empowered because I have something to share. I've learned something throughout my life experiences that I've either instilled in my children or in my family or in my community. And now I can go out further and make a difference. I think it does come down to knowing who you are. And when you feel solid in that, if you're a mother, you're an aunt, you're a cousin, you're a whatever, but when you empower others, you are also empowering yourself. I guess that would be the synopsis of it. When you
Mhm.
work on empowering others, whether it's instilling in your daughter, go and run for that office. You've empowered yourself too, because you've sent the message that it's possible to do it, and go ahead and do it. It's not like the mother who says, why would you think of doing something like that? No one would understand why you're doing something like that. Just go and read your books or go and sew some clothing or something. No, the mother who says, go and make it happen, I will support you, she's empowered, but she's empowering the next generation of the son or the daughter to go and do something, and it becomes a chain reaction. So I think oftentimes we don't take the time to look back and see how much we have accomplished in our, even if it's in our small world. We don't realize how we have planted the seeds that will be harvested later on, because we've used our words, our inspiration, to empower others who will go forth and do the same.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll just go to Lady Kate. Lady Kate, when did you discover or learn, or maybe for the purpose of someone that will be saying that, oh my God, somebody, someone talked to me the last time. Oh, Lucy, that discussion was so good, we learn a lot, and Lady Kate really, really had a lot to say. So I was wondering, when did you discover? When did you learn to bring out that leadership in you? Um, um, is this something that, like Dorina said? I mean, maybe your network. When did you know that you are empowered? Did you feel it? Because sometimes when you walk in a room, when people are smiling, if I walk in a room and I see Dorina or Lady Kate, I'm walking straight to them because they're going to be smiling. Oh, Miss Lucy is coming. I know that I have my friends, they're here, and I walk there. But for instance, if you walk in a room and you don't see the Lucy's face, and you just in the room, when did you discover that leadership, that confidence in you to just keep on walking? When did you really come to a point to say, about yourself?
Thank you, Miss Lucy. I think some of it is also natural, but I have grown over the years. I was inspired by my own mother, who, growing up, watching her leading women's groups back home in Cameroon. She would always be like a president in this group. The Catholic Women's Association, her tribal meetings, like she always really enjoyed being around women and getting them to do things. So I was inspired by her. And when I came to the United States, my dream was to, support young women achieve their full potential, and also recognizing that we are in a country that is, we're trying to embrace a different culture and knowing where we're coming from, using the best of both worlds to kind of build yourself up. And so through the Miss Africa USA pageant, I've always been very committed to empower our young ladies. But I'm going to speak on one missed opportunity that I have observed as an American and as a African, from Africa and living in the United States. Of course, my culture is very much Cameroonian, and blending that with the American. I think that as women, we've kind of brought over some of our cultural practices, right, from the countries that we come from. For example, women set up groups. We call them Jangi groups to empower women. We may not realize that this is very empowering, right? We collect money and give it to one woman to start a business or help her family. And then it goes around, it goes around like throughout the year, because our communities don't have access to equal access to finance, right? So we do all these kind of practices. But I think that we're also missing some great opportunities in our cultural women's groups, that we come in and we talk about, things that affect us on a daily basis, how we have to be together, but we're really not using that togetherness to grow ourselves and to develop, because I see a lot of opportunities where we can tap into our own expertise that we have in these monthly meetings that we have, to really empower each other, right? Not only the talent that we have in these groups of our members, but we could also bring in external talent. During these meetings, just bring in something inspiring, something new, something that will help our women grow. And I think it's a huge missed opportunities. If you look at most African communities here in the United States, I'm in Maryland, like Prince George's County, we have a lot of women's groups based on tribal, they organize in their tribal groups, or maybe this country has a women's association. Because being in the community and being in the grassroots, I collaborate with them, right? So I know that this is a huge opportunity. Every time you have a number of people gathered together is an for me, I see it as an opportunity to grow, to develop, to empower yourself, men or women. Always use that. But sometimes it will be, talking about what food we are eating next month, or the deaths in the community, how we've got to support each other because someone died. The agenda to me sometimes is very empty, that we could fill with, take that opportunity to empower each other, because I'm talking about a group of, a large group of women that we could seize the opportunity to inspire. So thank you.
I think what you said, I think is very, very important. And I'm thinking outside the box right now because I think we have a pull, but a lot of disconnect. And I'm glad that you brought that up, and we need to really tap into it for our next discussion. And as I always say, on the Liberian View, any idea, anything that will empower this particular platform, because once you empower yourself, you empower other organizations. But let's just go back to the discussion, and this particular question is going to go back to you, Lady Kate, and why Dorina is listening, because the next question will be hers. Um, Expectations of other African countries, you know, other African women, because I'm a Liberian and you are a Cameroonian. And it was funny. Um, um, this was not. It was not in. It was in a church setting. I'm not gonna call it church. Right now, I have on a blouse, as you can see, and a jacket. Okay, and this is what I took to church today. It's a long blouse. I need to stand up a little bit here. I mean, you can see it, but it's on the blouse reaches to my knee, and I have this pants under. And Dorina can attest to it. Sometimes, not, I always go to work with some jacket over my blouse and a long black. I mean, a pants and a long blouse. And so I have a little pain in my knee, and sometimes I struggle with it. So what I did, I decided to buy a very nice but very like expensive footwear because it's comfortable. I walk in it like my daughter is walking, and I feel good because it's not a heel, but just flat and with a very spongy, good heel. It was funny though. I went to church sometime last week, and someone said, "Oh, hi. This is my friend that dresses like a young adult." So it's like because I'm not a young adult, so I think the only difference is maybe the shoes. So that's what I was thinking, making reference to the shoes, because this is what I wear: jacket or blouse and a pants to work. So maybe the difference was the kind of shoes I wore made me young adult. So to me, so if a Liberian will see me, or some of my friends, regardless of Liberian, or my friends, African or American, will see me, they will know that this is what Lucy's wear. A black pants, some jacket, and a blouse that is long and almost to her knee. So this is the way I dress. But because of some culture, when during the summer, if you wear African thing, that means you are dressing appropriately or age. In America, and I think in other African, especially let me talk about Liberia. I mean, I wear a swimming trunk to go to church or in any other African country, or maybe wear some, how you call it, um, how you call this blouses with sleeveless blouse, without any top to go to church in those days. I don't know what's happening now. So if you dress like that, if you are 45 to 60 years old, you dress like that, it becomes a problem. You understand? But I'm having a jacket, but this lady had a problem because it was not only her telling me, another one told me the same thing. So I'm like, wearing a jacket that I wear to work every day and wearing the shoes, I said maybe the difference is the shoes. So I started, talking about. So it brought some awareness to me. I started thinking. I became conscious. Like, oh, should I wear the shoes? I shouldn't wear the shoe. Even though I know that I'm empowered. But it really played on my mind that people will pay attention to how you dress and equate that to your age. Or because
Mhm.
you are 50 something or 45, you shouldn't dress this way. So it played on me. So my question to you um, is our expectations amongst African culture impact your empowerment as a woman? Should it does it impact it in some way or the other? Because I feel like today, even when I was going to church, as I wore the same shoes, but then I became very conscious. Say, oh, is she looking at me to tell me what I look? And, so do you think it has or are those expectations? I mean, maybe dressing, fashion, or what we wear have a role to play on whether you are empowered or not?
I think that everyone should dress how they feel comfortable. That's the first thing. Your comfort level. Everybody has a different fashion sense, but society expects you to look a certain way. Like if you're going to the office, you want to be decently dressed, or you're gonna have have some problems there. But I don't think that the way that you dress sh- can or should impact your feeling of empowerment. Like if you know you're an empowered woman, it's a sense that you have, and you feel in how you comport yourself and how you carry yourself, how you interact with people, and how you want them to feel your empowerment in when you're in their presence, right? So I don't think that the way that you dress, but obviously our community, our culture, our African culture sets certain expectations of, and it's not written anywhere. You will feel it when you walk into a room, if you're dressed like, they think you're not dressing your age. But I think that's also common in society in general. But it shouldn't really affect your how you feel as an empowered woman and what your role is, as you are present wherever you are, what your purpose is for that day to deliver. Maybe you're speaking to a group, or maybe you're going to church. It's what you feel inside of you, and what you feel inside of you will resonate from within. And um, people may make judgments about you, but that should not impact how you feel as an empowered woman. Thank you. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Dorina, do you want to please chime in on that also, please? Thank you. That was very interesting.
Um, yeah. Well, as both of you were talking, I thought about it once again. I came on here this evening to speak from the standpoint of all politics is local. And one of the things, many of the things that popped into my head as you were both talking was number one, um, um, I've attended many African events from different countries while living here in the States. And I've always gone dressed as an American, although I've tried oftentimes to find someone to make me an African outfit to wear. I said, you know what, just let me go and be comfortable. And I've always been accepted. In fact, I have a lot of female African friends, and I always say that and I had to learn what that meant. I'm warm, which I'm like, I'm warm, but it means, it appears to mean that I'm open to other cultures and people from and I try to, I make an effort, a conscious effort to blend in and just learn and move forward. But what I thought about when you were both talking was both of our when Hillary Clinton was running for president, um, and she was running for Senate, there were many comments made about how she wore her hair, how she wore her makeup, how she looked, her dresses, her legs, her shoes, and then she just started wearing pantsuits. I look back at Kamala Harris. How often have we seen her in a dress? How often? She always wears pantsuits because she has found that if she doesn't, it's unfortunate. But as women, they are both empowered women, and they
Mhm.
know they're empowered, but they also knew and understand how they have to blend in to not get all those misnomers, or people are going to speak against them and say, oh, for example, Kamala Harris, she's part Indian. She has skinny legs. So she must have made a decision at some point that, hey, some people are going to basically comment on that, when she is an empowered woman in her own right. She's an attorney, the same way Hillary Clinton was the senator and secretary, the whole, and unfortunately, society tries to put that upon us along the way. I even noticed myself with I have a few pieces of African clothing, and I have some jewelry that I had from Ghana and from other countries. When I wear it, and I have to be honest, sometimes I see other people who are from different African countries look at me and say, oh, who's she trying to be? Why is she wearing that? Why? And I wear it proudly because I'm an empowered woman. I'm like, listen, I bought it. I paid for it. I feel like wearing it. I don't care what country it comes from. I like it. I'm going to wear it. And sometimes when I've worn an African outfit, oh, that's really nice on you. And that looks really great. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I just keep it moving. But from the standpoint of, there was something else that you both said that struck me from the standpoint of women going out into the community and getting and being visible, and whatever they're wearing. I found, Lucy, to respond to the question you asked Lady Kate earlier about when did she know that she was empowered. I can tell you that in the past, I've been a career coach. I taught people how to network. I had a small business. And so I knew, and I did business development. So I had to be out in the front and talk to people and convince them to buy certain services, goods and services. Well, what I found was, after I had done that for a bit, I realized externally that I was empowered when I would walk into a room and I did not know anyone, but someone there knew me, and they made it a point to make a beeline to me so that they could introduce me around. They became my emissaries. I'd come into the room and maybe know no one, and they would say, oh, there's Dorinda. They'd come to find me and say, Dorinda, I want you to meet. And then they would tell the other person who I was and what I had done and what I had accomplished and whatever they wanted to say about me. And I could just stand there and say, okay, yeah. And sometimes I was like, wow, they really made that much larger than life. But it was then that I realized that when other people who I had possibly empowered or touched or inspired or mentored, when they found me, it was their joy and their expectation that they would have the honor of moving me forward and saying, I know her. Guess what she's done? You need to know her, because by association, it also uplifted them in the eyes of wherever they were introducing me to. That started happening to me probably, I came back to the country in my 30s. So it started happening to me towards the end of my 30s. And it was after having navigated in some different circles, political. I was a weekend news anchor for the mayor's office of cable television. So I had some visibility. And I think that I realized it when someone who I looked up to came towards the room to me to say, oh, I want to introduce you to XYZ. I felt more empowered. I didn't feel as if I was an imposter coming into the room. And I felt like, oh, there's someone who acknowledges that I'm an empowered woman, and they want to make certain that they share that information with someone else. I think in my instance, I can say that. Because Lucy, you've done it a few times. I've gone to some events and you're like, hey, what do you think during that? And I'm like, okay. And then you're like, she does blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, let me be quiet and let her say what she knows and what she wants to share. And I've taken it as, you've been empowered me, but you've already in the room and you know the people, you're already empowered, but you empower me even further by sharing. This is who she is, what she's done, how she's done it. And you ought to know her because she can do the same thing for you. So it becomes a chain reaction.
And that's true, because I felt that too. Thanks for sharing, because oftentimes, again, when I walk into a room and someone might see me, oh, there's Lady Kate, oh, and then we're walking along. He said, have you met Lady Kate? Like they just kind of, it's like a validation that this person, you know, is empowered. They have something to offer. You need to meet. And it's all about building that network, right? They feel comfortable introducing you to another person that, you know, you may collaborate with, or just knowing that person added to your network, right? They want to even build you up more and stronger. I've seen that with the girls that go through the pageant, and how they also refer others, their friends, like, you want to go through this, you know, the empowerment, that it's a wonderful journey to be in, you know, this is what I got when I was in there. So it's just it's wonderful. It's a great feeling to know that you've made a difference, and that people always recognize you and want to introduce you to even more people, right? So
Yeah,
that your greatness can continue to spread. And also people that you can learn from as well, because life is a continuous learning journey.
it is.
Nobody knows it all. Nobody has it all, right? So there's always that opportunity to continue to learn and grow. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that was
And
Mhm.
great.
I, I'd
Uh,
like to add something to this, Lucy, because I just you emphasized the fact that you do the Miss I think the Miss Africa,
Yeah.
uh, you do the Miss Africa
Present.
pageant, right? Um, when I was much younger and I lived in upstate New York in an all Caucasian community, for some reason I said, oh, let me go ahead, and I didn't know why I did it. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She did not go, she was not out in the community. She stayed home and took care of us. She loved being a mom. So I had her 24/7. And so there was an opportunity for me to be in a pageant to run for, it was Miss White Lake, okay, for May Day. And I said, oh, well, why not? I don't know. Well, anyway, I went, I won. I was on this
Wow.
float and I won, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, this is interesting. And that was one of my empowering moments when I was a teenager. And
Mm.
I had forgotten all about it until you mentioned the pageantry, until later on when I was here as a student in American University and I heard on the radio, we're looking for contestants for Miss Black America DC, blah, 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 blah. I don't know why. I went and applied. I ended up being one of the 35 semifinalists for the Miss Black
Yeah.
America DC at Howard University at Compton. I didn't become a finalist, but I was a semifinalist, and I was dancing on stage. I was doing all the, I did all the stuff. I didn't win, but that was another level of empowerment because
Mhm.
I took the initiative on my own, feeling that I could go and do this, whether I won or lost. The fact that I
Mhm.
got the experience and the exposure, and I had never aspired to be in a beauty pageant or anything like that, but the simple fact that I put myself in the mix, I felt empowered enough to make the phone call, to submit my information, and in
Mhm.
the end, I was part of that experience. That empowered me even further because I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, wow, okay, I'm on the stage. The auditorium is full." I think my cousin Richard Roundtree, the actor Richard Roundtree, was the MC. So my mom said, "Make sure you let him know you're a cousin." And I was like, "Mom, that's not going to help me." But but the bottom line is, I still had the experience, and it empowered me to empower other women to say,
Mhm.
"Hey, you should go and go into a pageant, get some exposure, learn all the ins and outs of networking on a
Mhm.
local environment or an international environment as a contestant, and who knows where it can take you."
Yeah.
yeah, you never know until you try.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
So,
talking about, let me just share this, Miss Lucy, talking about, the pageantry system, right? In our, Miss Africa USA pageant, these are mostly college students or young professionals who come in, and giving them that platform to build their confidence. Some of them use that platform to as a way of overcoming some difficulty they've experienced in the past. For example, someone who was sexually assaulted, or someone whose parent took them back home to get this genital thing done, the female genital mutilation, and growing up with that pain inside and wanting to change that it doesn't happen to other young girls. I think that's very empowering. Or taking your story of sexual assault, where you survived it,
Mm-hmm.
and speaking to others to ensure that they raise the alarm, and they fight, they continue to fight against violence against women, right? So I think it's very, very empowering to gather that courage and come forward and say, I want to be an advocate for something. It's very empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And no
Yeah.
woman should
Oh, I'm
sit
sorry.
and see another woman being assaulted, abused, and
No.
especially, for instance, what has happened over and over in Liberia, in not only Liberia but all African countries,
Mhm.
where people are just being killed. Women have been, abused, killed, raped, but we don't say anything. The fact is, it's not happening in your house.
Mhm.
There's a parable in Africa. They say when someone's house is leaking, sometimes it's good to go and say, "Oh, can I bring or continue to assist you?" Don't say let it leak, because when it start leaking, it's going to drill down to your home being
Mhm.
leaking too. So it's
Yep.
very, very important that we stop, think, and start talking about these things. Today is Gloria Musu Scott's former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, someone that served our country, an empowered woman. Today she's a politician. We have other women that are politicians, but others have been killed. Why? That innocent blood of her daughter was just shared, just like that. And others have passed, other things happen. Things are happening that we're not saying anything. We're just sitting down because it is not me. It didn't happen in my house. She's not even my family. So we need to start talking. When you pick up that and start talking, it makes you an empowered woman. Because these are ills in the society that are not right. You didn't give a life. How can you just take it like that? So these are things that we need to start talking about. So let's go back. How did you get out of your comfort zone? Everyone in their life have their own group, have their own friends to sit and talk, because I'm waiting for the day that we have a little real face-to-face Liberian View discussion in my home. And we're going to plan it for, yes, we're going to plan it where we will sit and discuss and record and do it face-to-face so we can see all of the team members. We all have our own little groups here and there in our own comfort zone. How did you get out of your comfort zone? What did you do? How did you start tapping in? Because it's funny where I work. I don't want to talk about it, but sometimes when you hear Lucy's name, it's just like, oh my God, you really know her? Oh wow, that's good that you know her and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, um, when you get to know the person, from work is one thing, out of work, at work is one thing, but out of work, outside of work, in another environment, is a different thing. So at the end of the day, how did you get out of your comfort zone, out of that group, that known group? They know you, Lady Kate. How did you get out of some of those comfort zone that you already have, you created, and to get to other
Yeah.
groups? Now you're here on the Liberian View. This is a new group, because
I
every
know.
the list is added. You have a lot of different people that you get to know. Is that a way of also getting out of your comfort zone, or have you gotten out of other comfort zone before? Because someone will be watching and say, "Oh my God, they are all together talking." Maybe they are friends and know one another, but they don't even know how we met. So how did you get out of your comfort zone, and how are we here today, Lady Kate?
Yeah, so I get out of my comfort zone by, first of all, whenever I can, Miss Lucy, I will accept. I get invited to so many initiatives, events, things happening. I've even gotten invited by someone who says, Lady Kate, I think you should run for, Prince George's County office elected. I'm like, okay. So I am just the kind of person that is, I love networking. And I'm not shy to meet new people. I go in confidence and I introduce myself. You'll always see me with that beautiful smile. I do so by, you know, um, just being having this positive attitude when I meet people. I'll come straight up to you with a beautiful smile. How are you? I admire how you look, and say you just spoke and we all applauded you. I'll walk up to you and say that was wonderful. So that's how I kind of uh, start off with people, and I could end up with, adding to my network. I always do. When I go to events, I meet someone new that I never met before, and we connect and we find something in common and we keep building, right? So, yeah, first of all, accepting invitations, out of your, immediate network, right?
Right.
Coming to the Liberian View, for example, I've met some powerful, dynamic ladies, including Dorina here. And our last panel,
Yeah,
that's what
Cindy.
you do. Yes, you keep building. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. So let's say, I'm going back to you. Let's say someone is watching this show or will be watching, and they don't have a network or any group that they already that's existing. How can they start doing that?
You mean they can build their own network?
Hmm.
Again, it's by, going out there, right? You have an invitation. There's so many listed events online, things, find something that is your niche, something that is of interest to you, and you can join. Some events are, you have to pay, buy a ticket and go to women's conferences. Listen, March is my most favorite month of the year. That's International Women's, we have Women's Day, we have Women's History Month. Very exciting. So if you're a woman and you're trying to, grow a network or build a network or start getting out there and getting involved in women's issues, there's so many events that are coming up in the month of March. Just join. But another guidance I will provide is, if you're not confident in, like, breaking that ice and start going out there coaching, enroll in a coaching class. There are coaches, women coaches, that coach other women on how to start a network, or, networking in general. They give you skills that you can acquire to start, going out there yourself. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think it's very, very important to build, to be empowered is
Mhm.
to empower others,
Yeah.
find a group, and then once you are empowered woman, you join that group, they're gonna know because you're
Mhm.
gonna contribute to that group. And then at the end of the day, you're adding to your network. Because sometimes when you're invited, you say, oh no, I don't want to go there. I don't even know those people. You're never gonna know them unless you go there. So it's very, very important that you, make, take risks, make chances. You don't have to know people to go to a conference. You go there to network so that you can know people. And then the
Mhm.
next time you're going there, you already know somebody. So you're taking somebody that don't know somebody that went there and met somebody. And then as you
Yeah.
do that, you're gonna be invited to another group. Before you open your eyes, you become like Lady Kid or Dorina or myself. So from your perspective, how do you think how did you get out of your comfort zone, Dorina? How did you get out of that, Dorina?
Okay. Well, how do I get out of my comfort zone? I think I'm the eldest of five children, and like I said, I had a stay-at-home mom, so I had to find my own way. And I was the type of person who would rather stay in a room and read tons and tons of books. I read everything, and I came out for air and food, and then went back. So I think finding my comfort zone to get out was a series of things. I would sometimes, just to break the mold or to get away from what I would do normally, I would go with other people, have someone come with me or tag along with someone who would introduce me to other people. I did a lot of volunteering. I volunteered oftentimes in areas that I had no knowledge or expertise. For example, I became a TV producer, for example, because I decided that, I think I want to know how to produce for television, produce for radio. And I had no idea how to do it, but I tagged along with people who did it, and I ended up getting jobs on the weekends doing that. I volunteered. And as a result of that, I volunteered at conventions, and I became a known person at these conventions for the National Association of Broadcasters, for just all different types of organizations. And then I chose where and when I wanted to network to know more people in that arena. So I always say, for example, when I ran the first time here in DC for at-large committee woman, someone said to me, they said, Dorinda, you live in Southwest, but how do you know people know you? And you're going to be running citywide. How are you going to do that? I said, I hadn't really thought about it, but I created concentric circles without realizing it. I had a circle of, I was president of Women in Film and Video at one point. I was president of Name It Mid-Atlantic, which was for multicultural, multi-ethnic people in communications. I was president or vice president of another organization. So those circles, there are people who intertwined in those circles. So when it came time for me to run, I knew I could tap into those circles. I felt empowered because they already knew me. And the ones who did it, they got to know me because people in those circles said, hey, when you see her name on a ballot, vote for her. I didn't really have to push it too much, but I can also say one of the ways that I got involved, for example, in the Cameroonian community, Lady Kate, was I had been accepted to a program I was going to a program at Harvard, the senior managers in government or something like that. And I was stranded at the airport. A young Cameroonian woman, well, not young, she was younger than me, came up and we started chit-chatting because we had both missed our flight. And we flew to Boston together, and she dropped me off at Harvard. And we have had a friendship since then. She's invited me to be a part of her SUSE organization where they, take the money. She invited me to get involved with the Fonz Council here, not here, but in Southern Maryland. And I've gone to many of their meetings. I have eaten jama jama. You name it, I've eaten it. The fish sticks, the whole 9 yards, and food, the whole 9 yards. But I stepped outside my comfort zone because when she walked up to me at the airport and said, oh, well, you missed a plane too, blah, blah, blah. Her name was Jackie and John. And you missed your plane too. And where are you going? I said, I'm going to Boston. I'm taking a course at Harvard. And we became fast friends, and we still are today. But she connected me to the Cameroonian community here. The same way you connected me, Lucy, to many of to the Liberian community here. I'm connected to the Ghanaian community. I'm connected to many of the African communities here. And it's always been through women. And when I say I stepped outside my comfort zone, when it came time for me to go onto Capitol Hill and work up there, and Africa was part of my portfolio, I felt comfortable. I felt empowered to know that if what I didn't know, I knew how to ask in a culturally positive way, that I was not offending anyone. I wasn't stepping on anyone's toes, nor was I trying to make myself to be better than anybody. I was like, okay, so how does this happen in your, culture? Tell me so I know. So that I don't offend you and I don't step on your toes. So becoming as an empowered person, stepping into my own, I already knew that if I wanted to exist and be viable in a lot of different places and to be able to walk into any place and feel that I belonged, that I needed to pull out what my God-given gifts were. I know how to speak. I know how to interact in any environment. I've traveled, I lived abroad, I speak other languages. So I've found a way along the way to just, as much as I could, to blend in, but not to say, oh, I am you, I'm a part, but to blend in and to make certain that I could fit in, hold a conversation, enjoy what I was learning, exchange information, exchange energy. And I'm one of those people that I had this concept of, as a human being, I think that God gives us all a light. It's part of us. It's our light. Some of us have a dim light. Some of us have a bright light. Some of us have a it's kind of like flickering all the time, but it's our God-given role and our gift when we can go and light other lights, like a candle. We take our own candle, who we are, and we light another person's candle in existence. And I think that coming out of my comfort zone in different environments was the fact that I felt that I could light someone else's candle.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So actually, we're gonna all wrap up. However, I want for us to touch on being empowered, because part of the discussion and part of the concern is that I am empowered. Not a concern per se, but I'm married. And or I am empowered, I'm not married. Is there a different are there difference between someone who is empowered, oh, an empowered woman, but single empowered woman, and I know, and then an empowered married woman? I know that I'm single, and I know that this other person is married. Is the empowerment the same? Does it weigh the same way, or are there challenges because you're married? So we'll ask Lady Kate to talk about the married portion. I know that, and then I will ask Dorinda to talk about the single aspect of it.
Mhm. Yeah. So, an empowered woman, married or not married, empowerment is empowerment. And so, if you're married, you're in a relationship, and your partner, um, first of all, should be comfortable with the fact that you are an empowered woman. If not, you're going to get into conflict in the home. And I'm saying that because in my experience in the grassroots, I do come across women who are married, and they have all this greatness, and they're trying to do things that can impact themselves and their communities.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, experienced, pushbacks from their husband or partner, right? And how they deal with that without compromising their marriage. Sometimes that can be a huge challenge, especially within our African immigrant community, because not all men, and I say that not all men, African men, are, will support that or will accept their wife to be that elevated. Okay, this is a known fact in our community. A lot of men are intimidated by an empowered woman. So this is something that we as women have to, as we go about, preaching empowerment, that we should understand and take it into perspective that our women are dealing with this issue and it's real. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Dorina, do you want to chime in before we?
I can, because I've been in both situations. I'm a divorcee. I'm divorced, but my partner of 10 years, who my late fiance, who passed away, one of the things that I realized with him was, he said to me, because I was very empowered, I would always go and lead organizations. I do this and do that, and he'd say, "Okay, however I can support you, I'll support you." He was an American man from California, and what I found was, he said to me once, he says, "Where you are weak, I am strong. Where I'm strong, you are weak. We complement each other, and we can work as a team." So he'd always say, "I'm here to support you. I'm here to," but I have also noticed that since I've been single and he passed away, that oftentimes I do find that men are intimidated by when I say, "Oh, I have to go to this meeting," or I'm leading this meeting, or I'm going to meet so and so on Capitol Hill, and they may, raise an eyebrow. I've run across those who said, okay, can I come with you? So it depends on, it doesn't matter what country the man is from, because I've dated men from other countries, from Africa, from Europe, United States, and all men are the same. There are those who have their own insecurities where they're like, what? You're going to do what? You're going to speak at what? They won't say it out loud, but the look on their faces. And then there's other ones who are like, okay, baby, go ahead and make it happen. And I want to see you shine. You know, there are those who do want to see you shine, and they will invest in you and support you as you move in those environments. And it's up to us as women, with whomever we mentor or grow or inspire, that they see that it is possible. I think there are some setbacks for women who are married only because there's a strong community of men who are like, okay, you have enough to do. You're taking care of the children. You're taking care of me. You're taking care of the house. You're taking care of the job. And they're like, how can you be fully present if you're doing all these things? But women traditionally, we've always been a multitasker. We've always been able to juggle a lot of things. And I think that sometimes there are some men in the community who feel that they don't benefit from us being out there. But in the long term, they do benefit, because what we bring from the outside in is additional knowledge, additional exposure, additional understanding of the world. And we all know that it's women who create the learning environment. We are stronger creators of the learning environment in the home and in the family. And what we bring in can only enhance what a couple has and what a couple can do, and how they can go out there and be a united couple and make some serious changes. But I have come up against it both as a woman in a partnership with a partner, and now having been a single woman for quite some years. There is sometimes a challenge. Yes.
Yeah, I think in your singleness, you make all the decisions. You don't have to discuss anything with anybody as to where you're going. So that's a big difference. However, this discussion is not to say you are empowered. That means you need to maybe be disrespectful to your partner. No. Like Lady K stated, that you need to let your husband know, or your partner know, your fiancé know, these are the things that I do. Now, you cannot take your whole life in your marriage or in a relationship to go to all the meetings and then come back late in the evening, no food to eat, no time to even discuss. So you're not empowering yourself. You are neglecting your home. Whether that's your husband or that's a fiancé, that is just a challenging thing. So if you are empowered, we are not saying on this platform, have 20 activities and have nothing to do at home. You have to discuss it. You have to know who you are, what you want. What is your short-term goal? What is the long-term goal? How does it, you have to also align those goals with your relationship, your husband, who's supposed to be your number one friend. Let them know what is going on, which meetings you're going to. And then within that time, you have to find time for quality time in your relationship, time to cook your food, time to cook together, whatever way. But it shouldn't supersede your empowerment, and your networking shouldn't supersede or neglect the other activities in your home. So if communication is key, understanding is key, having activities you want to do, what you want to achieve, the short term and the long term, so it can spread over, not to neglect your family, your children, and other things that you do in your home. But if you're single, you still have responsibilities. Maybe you have children, you have your parents that you need to visit, you have friends that need your time. You need to set aside time for them. Not having a long list of everything to say, okay, then I listened to the Liberian View and I saw all these things. Honey, our activities in the house is changing now because I'm empowered. That's not what we need. Yes.
Yeah,
So
Miss Lucy, I just want to add also that being single doesn't mean you don't have, those challenges. Being single comes with its own, I mean, you can make your decisions, you're a single woman, but society can also place certain stereotypes that could impact you, how you operate, right? So being single, for example, people may view you as a single woman that, maybe you're not, you shouldn't have the privilege of, for example, running for office, or they may not trust you or believe in you. They may see you like you're not, um, you don't have the ability. Being a single woman, also, I'm just saying that we should
Yeah.
be aware
Yep.
that it's not just, um
Married.
yes, marriage, yes, being a married woman, you're viewed in a certain way, and being single, there's also some restrictions and pushback that women do come across just because they're single. Society may not trust you, may not want to empower you to do what you want to do. So just being aware of that is also very important, because we live in a society where, being married is like an achievement. Again, in the African community,
Yeah,
they think being married is like, yeah, that's an achievement. Everybody should work towards getting married. No. So we do have single, powerful women, very phenomenal women. We can do a lot of things, married or not.
Mhm.
But we should be aware that society does have
Yeah.
certain restrictions, or they view you in a kind of way that may not be so positive. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and you're right. I stated the last time on the show. I remember when I was president for this Liberian community here, I went for a meeting and someone was asking me, or by then I was married, why didn't you bring what's your husband? You meaning if my husband was sitting down here, he will be answering some question, or you will refer the questions to him and then he will ask me. That's what I'm saying. So what you say, you're right, because they view you differently. Like, who are you to come and talk to us?
Mhm.
And then they label you aggressive. They give you all kinds of names. But I can tell you, dude, it shouldn't deter you. Don't run away. Stay stand. Because remember what happened to Hillary. A lot of women have been beaten in this community. A lot of example, even before even Hillary. A lot of women have been beaten, and everything you want, you fight for it. Not in a like real physically fighting, but just striving every day to be
Mhm.
who you are and elevate yourself. As you elevate, pull other people and walk in rooms. You will find some smiling faces. Sometimes you may not. Don't look at the faces of the people. Look at the ceiling or the wall or picture. Concentrate on that. Put your heads up high. Keep on moving. So I'll just go quickly to before thanking everyone, our viewers, supporters, and everything. I want to say that on the 12th of March, we'll be coming here to discuss women, the forgotten leaders, and to commemorate the month and the history of how you call it again, of women.
Women's
Women's
history.
history.
Women,
Yes.
yeah, Women's History Month. And so I will also be asking you all to come, view, bring your questions. It's going to be at 4:30 on March 12th. Also, I think the Miss Africa pageant will be when.
March 18th.
Mhm. Any more information?
Yeah, March 18th at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Greenbelt, Maryland, Prince George's County.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Tickets
the
are now.
17th. Yeah. Yes, tickets are on sale on the website www.missafricausa.org. O-R-G.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, tickets are on sold. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Tickets
Sale.
are on sale, and
Mm-hmm.
we're hoping that next week, on maybe on the 12th, we'll bring some information, more information regarding the tickets, so that please attend. It's Miss Africa. Very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. The the queen in waiting is the Miss Liberia. She will be turning over to the next queen. So please come and support this effort. Even though we're not back in Africa, we have African communities here. So we're asking that you all come and support the various queen, because it leads to project, it leads to supporting people back home, it leads to the queen having her own project that she's working on, to know that we still have beauties and we're still going to be creating our Africanness within the United States. So I'll turn it over to first Dorina, that will just briefly give us a closing remark, and then turn it over to Lady Kate, and we'll call it a day. Our next event will be April. It will be on April. Hold on one second, please. It will be on April 30th. Our next event will be our next discussion or disco will be on April 30th. It's on Sunday at 4:30 p.m. But you will see us on April 12th. What we'll be discussing um, um, women, the forgotten leaders. So I'll turn it over to Dorinda to give us her closing remark.
Hold on 1 second. No, via, discovery, via. No, via. Okay, I'm sorry. My pet decided to show up just now.
It's okay. That's part of the show.
No, it's not part of the show, but he's not leaving me alone. Okay, vieni qua, seduto. Okay, I hadn't prepared any closing remarks, but what I can say, that becoming an empowered woman overall in general requires speaking up, building a strong network, embracing your individuality, and advocating for change. I think all of those steps there will allow you to impact uh, your community, your families, your homes, and others who are looking for someone to inspire them. Because especially in these days and times, with us coming out of the pandemic and everyone's kind of been sequestered at home or in closed environments, there are many people who become even more disconnected to what the possibilities are out there and who and what to do next, because we've all been discombobulated by this whole pandemic coming out of nowhere and changing our lives completely. So I think now it's even more important than ever that we create the groundwork, or we plant the seeds, so that those that we know who may have become disconnected get back involved again. Because I, for one, I know I used to, before the pandemic, I was always at some reception or some event from Tuesday to Thursday, sometimes, well, every single evening. But once the pandemic started, it became obvious that I had to stay home, and that created more of a time to think about who I was, who I am, who I am, and what was important to me. And now that things are beginning to open back up, I think it's even more important that we provide some sort of sense of continuity, stability, and opportunities for people to get out and to reconnect with each other and refoster that sense of community, and to increase the sense of empowerment that women may have had before the pandemic, but they may have lost some of it during the pandemic, because since we were all sequestered and had to stay home and the women were forced in the home environment to really take on the role of the mother, the sister, the aunt. There was much more of a compact, hey, you're here, we're closed in together. Where's the food? Where's this? Where's that? We relied more on women to keep everything running, I guess, so to speak, in the home environment. I think now that we have an opportunity to get back out about again and to be involved in things in person, I think it's more important now that we set the example and that we open the doors, that we're open to networking, that we're open to sharing information, that we're open to fostering opportunities for others to grow. Because when we do, we grow at the same time. And I think now is a very crucial time for us to step out and just be ourselves and be empowered, but work on empowering other women and contributing the way we did before.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're just going to move quickly to Lady Kate for closing.
Yes, so thank you for the opportunity, Miss Lucy, and for being on this panel with the distinguished Dorina White. I'm really very honored. Um, in closing, I just want to, for the women who are watching and even men who are watching, is that we continue to support our women by building strong networks and also encouraging women to realize their full potential, their talent, their God given talent, using that to empower themselves and also impact their communities. Most recently, as we navigate out of the pandemic into the endemic, we have learned so much how we can do things differently. Technology has played a key role in how we live our lives today, and women should not be left out of that. I encourage women to use these tools to develop themselves and build those skills that they need. Most recently, I've had women calling me. I just started a new business. I'm such a good cook. I'm starting a catering business, or something like that. It's very, very encouraging to see that women are starting to tap into their own skills and talent. I think that we should operate an environment that fosters and encourages women to do so. For me, I started the Great Women Network, and we are continuing to grow. Every time a woman calls me and says, Lady Kate, I just started my new clinic. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I have this clinic where I treat, mental health for adults and children. Hey, come on board. Let's get into this Great Women Network and keep on growing. So in the network, we have women who are doing catering business, healthcare, you name it. We're all in there, and we're trying to build and we're trying to grow and we're empowering each other. That's what we should be fostering out there, in just building a supportive network that will impact our communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I want to just take this time today. We discuss how to become empowered as a woman, and then we talk about individual as a whole. We want to take this time to say thank you to dedicate the Rainer and those who our viewers, our supporters. I know you learned a lot. You heard a lot. If you have any questions, just drop it while you are viewing it. We go back to listen in. We look at some of your questions, your concerns, your comments. It makes the program what it is. And based on your comments, we come up with new topics. Keep on supporting the Liberian View. As you heard, networking is very, very important. On this platform, we've had about almost 20 speakers, strong and powerful women. If you want to get in contact with them, just make sure to email me at the Liberian View at gmail.com, and I will make sure that you get in contact with them. The Liberian View will be having a one-day real face-to-face discussion, and we soon to be arranged, and we will invite some of you to come and see how this all works. If this has been very, very helpful for you or to you, you can contact us, and we'll make sure that we can connect you to organizations that will be helpful. If you're married, make sure you talk to your husband about everything that you're doing, your interests, your short-term goals, your long-term goals, and that shouldn't supersede your other obligations. In your singleness, we know you have other responsibilities. Make sure you have your own goals. Know who you are. Know your strength, your weaknesses, or your opportunity. You can use them later on as opportunities, because that's what this is all about. And where you need help, we can be able to support you. As Lady Kid also stated regarding support, that you can join the Great Women. If you're opening your own businesses, if you need support, make sure you let us know. If we can help, we will. If we cannot, we know who we can connect you with. At this time in our lives, we know who we can connect you with to assist you. So do not be afraid. Say it out. Communicate as much as possible. avail yourself, make your own goal, what you want to achieve. I remember when my bishop and my church bishop, Darlington Johnson, asked us to have, like, what's your goal for 2023? I remember those days, 10 years ago, I used to have like 20 goals. But this time I have only 3. Because if any addition, anything added, anything I achieve outside of those 3, I say then that's what they call grace, the grace from God. So make your goals and stick to it. Read more, want to know, and get to know yourself and be content with yourself. Because once you do that, that means you're one way or the other empowered. I want to take this time to say thank you and see you March 12th, March 18 for the Miss Africa, and March 12th for the Liberian View discourse on women, the forgotten leaders. That will be our next topic. For now, take care and God bless. Thank you, Dorina, and bye, Dora. Thank you, Lady Kate.
Thank you.
Okay.